friends, it's Mari here. I've got a couple of card projects here today for Scrapbook Nerd, focusing on products from Altenew. And I'm going to show you here just some of the products that I have on my desk right now. Mostly these are Altenew products, and these are things that I'm just showing you that you can pick up in the shop. There's so many sentiment stamp sets and beautiful florals and so on. Lots of really neat things from Altenew, including stencils, dyes, lots of things, masks. And I wanted to focus today on this wallpaper art stamp set, which is one of my favorites from a recent release. And I'm going to just take my Tim Holtz trimmer here and I'm going to trim down some Nina 80-pound cardstock. I'm going to trim it down to 5.5 by 4.25 for an A2 size card front. And I'm just going to stamp out some of these images here using some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I just really like that ink. I find it's really crisp for this kind of stamping. And inside of the stamp set, you get this project card that shows you all of the really cool sample ideas that you could do with these stamp sets. So I'm actually going to just follow one of the samples here that's in the little booklet today for my first card. Anyways, my second card's a little bit different from what's in the booklet. And I'm going to just stamp out here the one floral, that's the one bloom that's in the wallpaper art stamp set. So here's these really cool masks. So in with the stencil that's part of this set, they also have the masks, which is really cool. And I haven't seen this before from any other company. And what I did was I just put some repositionable adhesive on the back of that and stuck it over top of where I stamped my bloom. And now I'm just going to take some ink here. This is actually Shabby Shutters, which is just some Distress Oxide ink. And I'm going to use my Picket Fence blender brush here, and I'm just going to blend out some of that ink over top of where that mask is, just so that it just kind of creates this really pretty green, soft green glow around that bloom. And I really like how this looks. Now I wanted to leave that mask on there, and I'm going to stamp out some of the other bits of images that are also in the stamp set. So I'm going to use the stem, and I'm going to use some of the foliage stamps as well that are part of this collection. So you'll just see me placing them on there. I'm going to swing my MISTI door closed and pick up that stamp. I'm just going to make sure that my card piece is actually in the corner, and I just kind of keep repositioning that and making sure that it's tucked right into the corner every time before I stamp, so that I get those stamps, just exactly those images right where I want them, especially when I have to stamp more than once. And so you'll just see that I'm getting just a really, really nice crisp image here with this VersaFine ink. And I'm just going to take a baby wipe and clean that up. And then I'm just going to grab another one of the foliage stamps from this set and stamp in another area there. So I just am really doing some really simple black line stamping here. I think that this is just a really nice, clean and simple way to stamp out a card. It makes a card come together very quickly. If you guys are like me, you don't have all day, every day to make cards. And so sometimes when you need a card quickly, this is a really cool technique that makes it really simple and easy for a really pretty card to come together. So now I'm just taking one of the sentiments from the set. This one says hello, and I'm going to just use a little bit of Post-it tape here to tape this onto that die onto the card front here, just to make a little bit of a nice stitched edge on it. So that was my favorite things die set that I used to do that. I think Joy has those in the shop, at least she did have recently, and that just creates a really nice edge around your card front. Now I'm taking some Perfect Pearls, and I'm just going to add a bit of water to those with a tiny little paintbrush. This is a Vicky Bouton brush. I'm just going to splatter this onto my card front just to give it a little bit of detail, and this is really simple and easy to do. It dries very quickly, and I'm just splattering it on there in that way. So, and then basically this card is going to be finished. So I'm just going to put a little bit of foam adhesive on the back of the card front, I'm going to put it on some colored cardstock here. This is just some green cardstock for my stash. You can use whatever you have. Joy has tons of cardstock, by the way, in the shop. So if you need to stock up, she's got lots of options. And I just really liked the monochromatic scheme there of using greens as my only color. Now I'm going to be using some of the Nouveau expanding mousse on this next card. And I'm going to also be using the Altenew stencil. This stencil is called Splatter, so it's Splatter stencil, and it's a very cool 6x6 stencil that's really, really neat. I think it adds a lot of really cool dimension and texture to any of your projects. In this particular case, I wanted to use this mousse, just run this mousse through the stencil and give that texture to my card front. So I'm using this particular Nouveau paste is called Bramley Apple. I really love the tone of green here. I think it's just really pretty and springy. And I'm just using a spatula from my tool container here just to put this onto my card front. And I am using Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock here for my card front as well. It is cut to 5.5 by 4.25. And I just placed that stencil loosely over top of it. It's not a linear stencil, so, it doesn't really matter if the stencil's even on there straight. And so then that is all good to go. I just washed that stencil up with some water and stuck that away. Now I'm going to stamp out the other 2 blooms that I haven't used yet that are part of the stamp set. There's 3 blooms on there, I believe. And now I'm also going to stamp out one of the foliage pieces with the larger leaves. I'm going to take more of that shabby shutters, and I'm going to take my tiny little Ranger blending tools here, and I'm just going to blend some of that shabby shutters onto the leaves. This is really simple and easy to do, and I love these little blender tools because they're so small. They allow you to get into really tiny little areas. Now I wanted to blend a little bit of a darker green over my shabby shutters, so you will see me taking some oxide or some Distress Oxide ink in pine needles, and I'm going to blend that over top of the shabby shutters a little bit just to give it a little more color and dimension. Most leaves do have a variation in the color. I wanted to just create that impression here. So I'll add a tiny little bit more of that ink on there. These little brushes are so easy to work with, guys. I find that the Distress Oxide ink just blends so beautifully, especially on this Nina paper. And this took me literally seconds to do. It did not take me very long. So this was fun. And once I had that all blended on there, I wanted to just take a little bit of water and spritz it on there just to distress the ink a little bit and make it look a little more interesting. So you'll see me splattering a little bit of water on there a couple times and dabbing that up with my paper towel. And then I'll just let that dry for a few minutes. And now I'm going to die cut my leaves out. So I'm just going to take the dies that are part of the wallpaper art collection. I'm going to run those through my Big Shot, and then I've got a little bit of foliage there. I've also cut out the blooms as well using the dies from the set. And now I'm going to take my card front, which I have once again using those stitched frame dies from My Favorite Things. I just used that to cut out my card front again, and I'm going to adhere that using that foam adhesive again onto some Nina Desert Storm cardstock. This is just a craft cardstock. I really like the weight of it for a card base, and I'm going to adhere that on, like I said, with that foam adhesive. And now I'm also going to pop my little blooms up onto my card front with some foam adhesive as well. I will just glue my little foliage in behind there with a little bit of liquid adhesive in a minute or two, and I will almost be finished this card. So I'm just going to take the release paper off the back of my little foam squares and get those blooms added down to my card front. This is really a simple way, like I said, to make a card. If you don't want to fuss with coloring the images in, these images are so detailed and so beautiful. Just, simply stamping them out with black ink is gorgeous. It's perfect. You don't have to add a bunch of color to them. You can if you like to do that. If you have alcohol markers or colored pencils, whatever you would like to do. In this instance, I wanted to leave my blooms uncolored. So now I'm taking that Perfect Pearls again. I'm going to add just a little bit of sparkle and shine to my card front using the Perfect Pearls again. And that will just take a couple of seconds for that to dry. I'm also going to add a few Studio Katia sequins. I'm going to add some shimmering ice fusion sequins to my card front here. I'm just going to put down a little bit of the Nouveau glue in a few spots. I'm going to pick some sequins up with my Marvy. This is the Marvy Jewel Picker, and I'm just going to use my tweezers there to assist in getting those placed in the right spot. And once those sequins are all stuck down, my card is going to be finished. I did stamp a sentiment on the inside of this card. That was from one of the sentiment sets. One of the things I love about Altenew is that their images are gorgeous, but their sentiments and all of the other little bits of their collections are just so beautiful. So you have the stencils, you have the masks, you have the stamp sets. They also have a huge line of inks as well, and lots of other goodies. So make sure you check out Altenew in the Scrapbook Nerd Shop. There's so many fun things to check out and just to create some beautiful projects. And I'm really happy with how my cards turned out today. So I am going to show you here really quickly the 2 finished cards, and that will be it for my project. I will leave a link to the Scrapbook Nerd online shop in the description box below. If you want to click on that link, you can head on over there and check out all of the Altenew goodies in the shop and all of the other things that Joy has in the shop for you. Thanks so much, guys, for stopping by today, and have an amazing day, and I'll see you another time. Bye-bye.